Welcome to From Caving In to Crushing It, the podcast for those who find themselves immersed in adversity and choose to write their story instead of having others write it for them. I'm Deraney, and I'm your host. Geoff Suval, it's so great to see you, my friend. Thanks for coming on.
No, it's my great pleasure, Drew. Thanks for having me.
Oh, absolutely. So I always love our before I hit the record button, the talks before, because I actually learn sometimes more about my guest in the 5 to 10 minutes we do before the record than I do any other time. And so I definitely enjoy that. I have to give a shout out. I always give a shout out to the people who introduced me to the guests, and I'm going to indirectly give a shout out to Keegan Schaefer, because it was in his men's group now called Tribal Stoics, where you and I met. And so I'm very thankful for that. So Geoff, there's a reason why I chose you to be on. And I bring people on, men and women alike, who have gone through faith-shaking events in their lives that have caused them to pause. And, you know, all these defining moments, they're really they're all relative. It depends on the person. Some people, it's a tap on the shoulder and they hear a voice to say, do something different. There's a better way to live. Some, like myself, needed a 2x4 hit me upside the head to wake me up and realize there's a better way to live. Yeah. So I know you've gone through a lot in life, and I know that you've made a decision not to retreat, and you've made a decision to go forward and become a stronger man for your adversity. I'd like you to reach back as far as you feel necessary to grab that 1 or 2 or 3 defining moments that were either the tap on the shoulder or the 2x4 upside the head that said, hey, Geoff, there's a better way to live, pal. Do something different. You don't have to live the way you're living. Give us a good story, my friend.
Yeah, well, that's great. Well, to do it justice, I know we probably don't have a ton of time, but yeah, it's been an interesting journey. I will go back and I like to kind of just sort of frame the way things were. And I candidly, I basically had a pretty idyllic childhood. I mean, it started off kind of rough. I mean, I was left back in the first grade, and this is before parents were, holding their kids back to give them a leg up or athletically. I actually couldn't read, right? So, that might have actually been the first log on my fire that made me always want to kind of prove myself, right? So I always put in the effort, and, maybe combined with a little bit of natural talent and being a generally good guy, I had some, early successes athletically, socially, academically. I mean, high school, I was a good athlete. I got good grades. I was homecoming king,
right.
Things were good, right?
Yep.
I got accepted to Cornell, early decision, where I had an amazing 4 years, a very unspectacular lacrosse career that was brief at best. But, I made some truly amazing friendships that just continue to get stronger and persist today, right? So college was great. And frankly, early post-college career was also great. Living in Washington, D.C., making great relationships. I had a pretty good, impressive early career trajectory and was building that resume. So things were good, Drew. I mean, I was checking the boxes, so to speak, right? I mean, absolutely. Marriage, I started a family. I was, winning lots of trips and trophies through work. And, but at that point, things started to get a little bit dicey. And frankly, I started to feel a little bit of pressure from expectations. And these weren't just expectations that were being thrust upon me. A lot of them were expectations that I was placing on myself, right?
Right.
And some of those, I mean, frankly, I started putting too much emphasis on outward appearances, right? And this is going to be kind of a theme, I think, that I'm probably going to want to talk about quite a bit today. But, sure. There was just a lot of keeping up with the Joneses type behavior, which caused some mounting financial pressures and problems. And, but things were still going okay. But probably the first big defining moment was in late September 2013. I was heading up to a meeting, business meeting. I was doing retirement plan advisory work. I built a successful practice for a pretty big company.
Right.
And I was heading up to a hospital client of mine up in York, Pennsylvania. And I got involved in a pretty horrific car accident that was actually caused by a truck driver, an 18-wheeler who was texting.
Oh, no.
Now, that accident definitely should have taken me out. I mean, looking at the pictures, it's kind of a miracle, but it obviously didn't take me out because I'm here chatting with you, thankfully.
Right.
Yeah. However, there were many times in the subsequent years that I actually kind of wish that I had been taken out in that accident. And I mean, I had $7 million, $5 million of personal life insurance, a couple million in business insurance that would have covered me. Plus, there definitely would have been probably a pretty significant settlement from the trucking company and their insurance carrier. And financial security was always something that I thought was my biggest responsibility, to leave my kids, my family, my wife and kids. And so that certainly would have left them better off financially, which was always my goal. But it obviously didn't happen. And after that accident, and I'll share the pictures with you at some point, but after that accident, my brother-in-law, my sister's husband, who's just, a sweetheart of a guy, he's also a pretty spiritual guy. But, he's somebody that he believes that things always happen for a reason, right?
Right.
And he would be like, Geoff, he's like, you survived for a reason. We'll find out. Right? It will be revealed. And I always kind of thought my reason was, or my purpose was, to be a provider for my family, and make sure they were safe and secure.
Yeah.
And I still believe there's something to that. Clearly, that's, my goal is to, do what I can for them. But he was always like, I think it's something else, right? So, I guess we'll see, But, I lived, obviously, and I suffered a major concussion, lots of cuts and bruises, but I only spent one night in the hospital, which, is crazy. It literally shut the interstate down for 6 hours. I mean, this was a major accident. Nobody died. I was the most messed up, and I was only one night in the hospital. It's really a miracle. But that accident, Drew, was the beginning of a series of very unfortunate financial events that, when combined with some pretty absurd actions by my former employer, my employer at that time, which, I mean, there were some broken promises. They essentially offered me a 70% pay cut for building this beautiful, really profitable business for them. But
that was their thank you card to you?
Yes. Yeah. They waited a year until after the accident, but they had already done some other things before that, which, ended up hurting me financially significantly. But, but those things, they weren't the cause. Like, the cause of my financial issue were my own, my keeping up with the Joneses, like these irresponsible spending behaviors that, frankly, in lifestyle choices, private schools for the kids and clubs and, really nice cars, like all, stuff that I placed too much value on because it was about outward appearances. Right.
Exactly.
But, after the accident and this unfortunate stuff happened, where my resignation was forced, I really, for the first time, started having some doubts, like, about my ability to deliver, right?
Oh boy, yes.
And certainly my ability to provide for, my family. But I continued the financial facade, which was, not a great decision.
Right.
And this was when I definitely had thoughts of suicide.
Oh boy.
And it's because I had still a good amount of life insurance, right? That I knew would have paid. But, I would have made it look like an accident, or, I had, I was thinking of, well, what are some ways that I can sort of put myself in dangerous situations where I can be saving somebody else? So at least I can go out looking like a hero.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep. Absolutely. I'm sure a lot of people have thoughts like that. Oh my boy.
So
Jeez.
things got pretty dark. And it was primarily because honestly, I couldn't meet these unrealistic expectations that I had set for myself.
Yeah,
Right.
exactly. Yeah.
And those expectations, which were largely around money and having material things,
Hmm.
I placed just way too much value on, right? And those led to problems. So I was so focused on like what I lacked materially that I just lost sight of, all the awesome things, the abundance that I had, right? The love of my friends and my family, which, you know, I'll talk more about that. But, you know, eventually in 2018, my wife said she wanted to separate. And I understood why. It was, a lot of it was around financial stuff.
Right.
So I was living, in a rented apartment. I was still seeing my kids a ton. I got two kids,
Yeah.
both in college now,
Yeah.
But my wife and I, my ex, we were still getting along great. But then the retirement advisory firm that I was now working with let me go because they were being acquired by a very large Wall Street bank that we've all heard of. Anyone in finance knows this company.
Hmm.
They, I guess, keep their anonymity to protect their innocence, such that it is.
Yeah.
But even people not in finance would have heard of that, right? But I was essentially let go because my personal credit situation was so
Really?
bad. Yeah,
Wow.
I couldn't pass the bank's screens,
Oh my
right?
God.
Again, my own fault, my own
Yeah.
decisions in the past led to this, right? So I was let go, and at that point, one of my best friends, a really great buddy of mine, his name's Mike, and he was like, Jeff, just don't spiral, Jeff. Don't spiral, right? Like living alone, no job now, right?
Oh yeah.
He's like, don't spiral. He knew about all the other stuff, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
I actually wrote little pieces. I wrote "Don't Spiral" on little
For
pieces of
you.
paper and
Jeez. Yeah.
put them all around my
Need
apartment
stuff
as
like
like
that.
reminders, like not to
Absolutely.
spiral.
Oh
Right?
yeah. Absolutely.
That was probably helpful. But
Yeah, I'm
so
sure it was.
the already bad situation financially started to get worse, even more dire. But I was able to slide into a position with an insurance company. And I don't believe me, I'd done insurance earlier in my career and I'd had some success.
Yeah.
I didn't love insurance anymore. I did this out of necessity.
Right.
I had to earn money somehow, but that insurance company owned the exclusive rights to this very cool guaranteed financial aid, very cool guaranteed tuition reduction program that I was actually an architect of.
Oh wow.
So it allowed me to get back to something that I had success with earlier. So that made the insurance certainly more palatable, right?
Sure.
And I was actually starting to have some success, like making money again. I remember, right, I had a couple of really good months, and my partner in that business, who's a good friend to this day, I remember him saying, "You see, Jeff, it's always darkest before the dawn," right? And it was. So I was starting to feel pretty good. And then the pandemic hit,
Ah,
right?
geez, that thing. Yeah.
Which crushed that business, Drew, because that business, the type of insurance that they sold, yeah, the
Yeah.
tuition stuff it came along with the insurance,
Oh, okay.
but the insurance that they sold was worksite voluntary
Oh
insurance. Well,
no. Jeez.
pretty hard to sell
Oh,
worksite voluntary
absolutely. Yeah.
insurance when no one's going to the worksite,
Not really, not market resistant, I'm
Yeah,
sure.
exactly. And the businesses, the companies, the prospects, they're not interested in changing benefits. They were worried about their own survival. They
Oh
didn't have
yeah.
the bandwidth for
Yep.
it was a crazy time for everyone. So, sales weren't great, to say the
Yeah.
least.
Yeah.
So the financial picture, continued to get even more bleak. I then went to my doctor for routine physical. I mean, it took months to get an appointment, if you remember. It's
Yeah.
like
Oh yeah.
parents broken anyway. But went in, had a physical with my doctor, and she was like, "Would you be open to taking these anxiety and depression questionnaires?" So I was like, "Sure." And so I answered them honestly, and she confirmed that I was in fact depressed. It may have been situational depression based on the financial stuff and the feelings of failure and inadequacy. But, luckily, though, I've always been open to suggestions. And she suggested talk therapy, and I did it, and it helped. But I was definitely drinking too much. Right.
Okay. All right.
I'd always been a heavy drinker. But at this point, my drinking changed from, having fun with friends and social to essentially being medicine that would
numb the pain,
my
right?
mind off of, at least temporarily, my situation, right? The financial stuff, the feelings of failure, inadequacy, all that. I needed to move out of the apartment, the nice apartment that I was renting again, just to lower expenses. And so that same friend who was like, "Don't spiral, Geoff," he owned a building that had, a basement where I could store all my stuff. And so he said, come check out Shenley in the basement. You can put all your stuff there. Because I lined up a room that I was going to rent, but it was basically just a room. It wouldn't fit any of my furniture.
Right.
So again, like, this is not how we drew things up when we're kids.
No,
right?
life was not linear.
Go from having a lot to like literally renting a room.
Yep.
So I met my buddy on early morning, Sunday, March 7th, 2021. And I checked out the basement and I'm like, this will fit my stuff.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And as we were like, wrapping up, he was like, can I talk to you for a minute? And I was like, sure. And he's like, look, with the separation and financial stuff, I was getting ready to declare bankruptcy, Drew.
Right.
He's like, with all that and, business collapsing and moving again, do you think that maybe if you stop drinking, being a little bit more clear-headed and sober as you try to dig yourself out and right the ship, think that might be helpful? And he was right. And honestly, I was ready to hear it. So that was one of those.
Be ready to listen. Yeah, absolutely.
That's it. And I honestly, Drew, I drove home from that meeting with my buddy Mike, and I remember thinking, I may have had my last drink.
Wow.
And he also put me in touch with one of his good buddies who's a really big deal in the recovery world. I also knew this guy. I knew he was a doctor of some kind. I know what kind of doctor he was. He's a really big deal, though. Anyway, so I talked to him, and that guy told me about Alcoholics Anonymous, and he made some suggestions. And that was over 2.5 years ago. And except for maybe 2 days, Drew, gone to an AA meeting every day, and I've not had a drink since. Thank you. Yeah, I've totally embraced it and committed to it. I've also been totally embraced by that sober community and just the love and the connections and the fellowship of Alcoholics Anonymous. But it was the talk therapy that opened me up to being more honest with myself first and foremost. And then
you had to be open to the talk therapy too. Some people are so close to that you need to have that talk therapy to crack the door open a little to allow Alcoholics Anonymous to actually work. So kudos to you for not just being able, but being willing to do the talk therapy and really let it help you. All right. So now you're working on kicking the addiction of alcohol. Now, where were you working at this time when things started to get better?
So I had found this awesome company. This is now 2021, called Xceleran. It's a one-stop shop for small and medium-sized businesses, for lack of a better description. They do everything. They started as a business management software company and then sort of morphed into everything: merchant services, virtual employees, digital marketing, you name it, right? It's an awesome company, great leadership. The president's actually become, a good friend. And we've never even met in person. It's an entirely virtual company, right? It's really cool. And they have 6,000 small business clients all over the country.
That's awesome.
But I was looking for another like arrow to add to Xceleran's quiver when I then found what I'm doing now. Right.
Oh,
And
interesting.
so, I found my current company, and then I was talking to my boss from Xceleran, and I was like, I found this awesome thing. And he's like, well, tell me about it. I'm like, you're gonna love it. And he's like, that sounds amazing. He's like, all of our clients need that. And I'm like, yeah, well, you know, I also saw they were hiring, so I threw my resume in there, and I already had one interview.
Wow. Uh-oh, yeah.
And he was like, I mean, I was 1099 with them. And he's just like, Geoff, that's
Well, yeah.
awesome. You
Yeah,
do
of
you,
course.
right?
Right.
So anyway,
So
so go
that's
ahead.
good. All right. So you had, even though you were 1099, they cared about you enough over there not to make a big deal out of that. They wanted to see the best for you.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So
Well, and we're still doing a bunch of stuff together.
yeah, that's what I'm
Yeah.
gonna get. I definitely want to
Yeah.
get to that. So where was this opportunity and where you are now?
So I was lucky enough after three interviews, including a panel interview, to be adopted into the J Galt
Yay.
finance suite, the J Galt family. And I
I
was brought
love
on as a regional managing partner. And the
it. Right.
company, it's unbelievable, right? And we're experiencing exponential growth, and things have gone well enough. And this was just, I got the call that you're adopted on January 27th of just this year. So
Of this
January
year.
27th,
Oh my
2023.
gosh, that's awesome news. All right,
Yeah,
great.
but things have been going well enough that I've actually been promoted, a couple of times. I'm now an executive vice president.
All
I'll be
right.
the state director. So you know, I'm building an incredible team of people that, are very mission driven. And our mission. We shared this, right?
I
It's
do. I love your mission. I love
right.
it.
I am relentlessly embracing my destiny to serve as an industry disrupting pioneer committed to prospering, protecting, and promoting small business
I
owners.
love that. Every word there is impactful in a positive way.
Yeah.
I love the relentless piece.
Yeah.
How is the personal life going?
Awesome. So thankfully, I didn't screw up my relationships when I went through the the deepest challenges, the darkest days. And I've always had a very strong relationship with both of my kids, two kids, freshman in college, senior in college. They're totally supportive of my recovery and everything they do. They know that I love them and I would do anything that I can for them.
Mhm.
And they're awesome humans. So those are great. My ex-wife and I get along really well. And,
Good.
even when my ex-father-in-law has passed, he was awesome. And my mother-in-law is a saint on earth, ex-mother-in-law. But I've found this just unbelievable woman.
Yeah, right.
I met her, through recovery. She knows all my stuff, right?
Yep.
So it's not like there's no secrets, and she hasn't run away yet,
I love it. I love it.
And so the honesty, right? It's about
Yeah.
honesty
Oh
and
yeah.
vulnerability, and
Yep.
she's seen it all, baby. So, and she hasn't, kicked me out yet. So that's
And she's not going to either.
yeah,
I love the fact that you both what you've gone through, it resonates with each other and you're each other's support system. So and the fact that you feel comfortable to be vulnerable and you have somebody who's going to embrace that and help build you up is also a
yeah,
beautiful thing.
it's awesome. Yeah, thank you. And without having gone through, you know, the stuff I went through,
Yeah.
I wouldn't have found her clearly. I like, that's why
We froze a little bit here, Geoff. We got some technical difficulty.
I and
There we go.
so
We froze a little bit, but all right. So let's go back. Yeah, it froze for a while.
okay. Oh
Okay.
yeah, it says my connection is
Yeah,
unstable for some reason.
that's all right. We'll fix that in editing. So that's okay.
Okay.
All right. So let's pause a little. Okay. So you have, if you hadn't gone through what you went through, you wouldn't have met your wife. You wouldn't be where you are now. So in a way, you wouldn't change anything that's happened.
No, I wouldn't. And she's not my wife yet, Drew.
Not your wife yet. All right. See, cart before the horse.
Yeah,
a
yeah.
nice young lady you're spending time
Yes.
with.
Yes. I would not have met her. And you know, I would not be able to be as honest.
Hmm.
And frankly, as I'm just I'm just better for her. She's better for me, you know. And had I not been through it, I obviously had the separation happened, I wouldn't be with her had that
Okay.
not happened.
Right.
And frankly, um, if I was still married to my great ex-wife, I
Yeah.
would not be sober today.
Right.
Things would be I would not have the gifts that I have now.
Yeah,
Right.
absolutely.
So it ain't great when you're going through it,
No.
especially when it's not your decision, right?
Yeah. Oh, true. True.
But you know, somebody that we know, they're always like, you know, look, when things happen, it's like you got to ask yourself, like, what's the gift here? What gift am I being given?
Hmm.
And you know, with the benefit of some hindsight, you can actually be like, thank God that happened
Yeah.
because this, and this has happened. So
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. And you know what? It's good to be able to have somebody call attention to what gifts come from challenging situations, because we don't think about that on our own usually, you know?
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So tell me specifically what type of biz. I know that Jay Galt's there to rescue small businesses. What specifically is unique about the company's offer from other financial service companies?
Okay. Yeah. Well, it is entirely unique, which is great. Now there's some copycats popping up on YouTube University, but I don't think they
Of
can
course.
deliver. But you know, so we actually help business owners, small and medium size, mostly small though. We help them separate and keep separate their business credit from their personal credit and get access to all the credit and capital, the money they need for their business at better rates and better terms without personal guarantees.
Right.
So we do that by helping them build like real business credit, corporate credit on
Mhm.
the EIN number, right, which is obviously attached to the business. So when they need money, they'll never again put their personal finances or personal credit or assets at risk.
Right.
So it's we that's why we literally rescue, because bad things can happen, right? I mean, our CEO, one of his childhood friends, had a very successful small business, and business's fortunes turned and the business went bankrupt, leading to personal bankruptcy because of the personal guarantees, divorce, guy committed suicide. When that happened, our CEO was like, this is an all too common story. Not the suicide part necessarily, but
Right.
bad things happening when
Sure.
businesses.
Absolutely.
And
Yep.
so we're trying to rescue them from that sort of bad fate.
Hmm.
So we are unique in that there's no other company that does that. Again, people are and very savvy business people, and I considered myself to be a savvy business person, you know, thought that, well, I have business credit. Like I had my own small business. I still have it actually.
Hmm.
And I have like, you know, a platinum credit card right
Yep.
here and
Yeah.
name of my company and me. And I had a business line of credit, but every time I used it, my FICO score was going down. I'm like, wait a minute,
Wait.
I thought this was business.
Yeah.
But so there's business credit and then there's real business credit or corporate credit.
Interesting.
We
Okay.
do the real, right?
Okay. All right.
So it's awesome. So we rescue small businesses, and it's been amazing. We're exponential growth. I'm building a great team of people that want to serve. Like we look for that, you know, servant mentality, you
Right.
know, for people that we bring into J Golf. And you have to want to, you know, Muhammad Ali said it best, right? Service is, you know, the rent you pay for your room here on earth. And I believe that. Um, and we definitely carry that with us. And so we try to give as much as we can.
I love that. I love that quote by Muhammad Ali. That's awesome. That's
Yeah.
awesome.
He's got some good ones.
He
Good boxer
definitely.
too.
Yeah, yeah, he was fairly good boxer. You're right. You're right.
Yeah.
So, and your boys are doing well in college. That's awesome.
Yep.
Where
Yep.
are they going? What states? Are they far away from you?
Yeah, they're far. They're like, well, I'm getting out of Maryland. My daughter, she's a senior at Ole Miss. So I don't know why you wouldn't want to go to Ole Miss. I mean,
Right.
it's awesome. She's having a blast. And she was high school class of 2020. So she didn't have
Oh,
her,
yeah,
she
she
missed
missed.
prom, she
Yeah.
missed graduation. Like, so
Yeah.
Ole Miss has been amazing because there is no pandemic in Mississippi, right?
Right.
Like
There you go.
they managed to avoid it.
Yeah.
And my son is a freshman at Indiana University, and I think he's having fun.
All right.
So he's doing the fraternity thing. My daughter, big time in the sorority thing, which is huge
Okay.
down south. So
All right.
they're having fun. They're great people. They're coming back for Thanksgiving, which I can't wait
Awesome.
because
All
that's
right.
my holiday, my
Yeah.
family. We're all getting together up and
That's great. That's
heading back
awesome.
up to New York. So yeah, awesome.
I love it. I love it. Well, I'll tell you, the audience certainly has captured the essence of Geoff Suval. Thank you for being vulnerable and sharing your story, Geoff. I consider it a comeback story, and comeback stories always have good endings. Although you're not ending yet, you're going strong. So just want to let the audience know, if you want to get in touch with Geoff, just to talk to him personally, or if the services that Jay Galt provides sounds good to your small business. Geoff's on a mission to rescue small business, and he is offering a complimentary 30-minute call if you want to talk with him about your certain issues, situation. And best way to reach him would be via email at gsuval@jgalt.io. Did I get that right?
You did. Perfect.
So let's do a little role play. I call you for this complimentary 30-minute call. What can I expect, Geoff?
Well, I really want to learn more about you and your business, right? And what got you started, and what's your why, right? But then what are your challenges, and then with that information, it'll help us determine if we'll be a good fit for each other, frankly. But I'll definitely, give you a lot of good information about the hows of building real business credit, the process that's involved. I mean, we guarantee, like, we're the only company that guarantees results. And then after meeting with you, I'll pull a complimentary business credit report, so you can see kind of what you look like in the eyes of the business credit world, to see what you might be eligible for in terms of real separated business credit. And then I can tell you how to go about doing it. So business credit reports all around.
Wow, that's an extremely valuable asset for entrepreneurs, whether they're just beginning or have been up for a while, or even trying to scale up, especially because
absolutely all of the above.
Yeah, you definitely want to separate your personal from your business. There's no doubt about it. So, Geoff, you and I can talk for hours. To wrap up, I have two final questions. Are you ready for these?
I don't know.
All right, put your seatbelt on, man. Here we go. So, Geoff, you have an opportunity to sit down with young 7 to 10-year-old Geoff Suval and give him advice about life. What are you going to tell him?
The 7 to 10-year-old Geoff Suval was a precocious one. I would say, try to form some good, healthy habits and learn to always move forward. And also, always be nice to people, and definitely don't be influenced by people who aren't.
Love it. Love it. All right. Different hat. You're now sitting down with young Geoff Suval to discuss. He's the young businessman, young upcoming entrepreneur, and you want to give him advice about business. What are you going to tell him?
Well, first, I'm going to tell him he should probably build some business credit. But that aside, I'm going to say, look, always stay positive, and positivity is huge, right? It's about mindset, but stay positive, put in the work, always commit to doing your best, and avoid excuses, right? Like, let's take some ownership of, our failures, but also our successes. But, do not be afraid to ask for help, and give yourself a break, especially when it comes to your own expectations of yourself, right? And, never compare your insides to other people's outsides. It doesn't help at all.
Oh, I love that. Insides to outsides. The comparison is a very, very dangerous thing to do. But Geoff, I thank you so much for coming on. I'm grateful we're in each other's world together. Please keep doing what you're doing. You're a wonderful human being, and I thank you again for coming on.
Thank you, Drew. It was my great pleasure. I loved it.
Oh, absolutely. All right, everybody, you take care of yourselves. Be well. Thanks so much for listening. If you enjoyed the episode, please subscribe and give us a review to help others find it. I'd like you to answer this question. Are you living the life you want to live, or are you living the life others want you to live? I'd like you to think about that for a second, because I strongly suggest you live the life you want to live. If you want to learn more about what I stand for and my services and how I'm able to help many men get out of their own way, please go to my website at www.profitcompassion.com. Feel free to also email me at drew@profitcompassion.com. I'd love to have a conversation with you. Take care of yourself and choose to write your own story instead of letting others write it for you.